Hello, welcome back to the store. I heard that you were interested in another antique camera. Okay, good. Well, I think I have found a great one for you today. So I'm going to go over it with you and show you its features, and then talk about some of the accessories we have for it as well. Okay? Good. Well, the camera that I have found for you is a wonderful example of an Argus 35mm camera. These were manufactured from the 1930s up until 1966, and I believe this model to be from sometime in the early 60s to the late 50s. So this was a very popular camera. In fact, this camera popularized the 35mm format. Before this camera, the formats for the film were quite different. And with the advent of this camera, the 35mm format really took off and became a standard. So let's take it out of the leather protective case that it's in. We have the bottom here, has 3 snaps. And then the top, you have to push out a little bit to get it over the lens, and it comes off, leaving the protective leather case over the bottom of the camera. And we'll leave that on for now, but we'll take it off later. So this is the Argus. C3 is the number, and it is extremely boxy, but that is part of its design and definitely part of its charm. We have here in the front the lens, and this ring here is the controls for the f-stops, and you have 2 little metal tabs here, and that rotates from one end to the other. And one of the unique things about this camera is that the f-stops are continuous. They don't click in place at specific points. You can actually select a setting in between 2 f-stops, which gives you a great deal of control over your depth of field and over the amount of light coming in. This control here is for the focus, and the unique thing about this camera is that you have this gear in between that actually moves the lens when you set the focus dial here. So the mechanisms are not internal, they are external. So moving this dial here rotates this gear, which in turn rotates the lens. Like that. So a fairly ingenious way of making sure that this matches up with this. The very early models did not have this gear, and so basically you would have to set the focus through here, look at the number, and then manually set the lens focus based on what the reading was here. And the reading here is determined by what you find in the rangefinder. And we'll go over that in a second. So here at the top you have controls for winding and unwinding the film. You have a shoe for attaching various things like flashes and other rangefinders. You have a film release catch here, and this is a counter to tell you how many shots you have left on the roll. And then this is the release for the shutter. So in order to take a picture, you have to use this mechanism here, which you push and it locks in place, and basically that arms the trigger, so to speak, and then you push down and it makes a lovely sound and takes the picture. And then to take another, you have to push up again and take another picture. Now on the back of the camera here, you'll see that there are two ports or holes to look through. One of them is just a straight sight through the camera, and when you look through it you see just the normal view of what's on the other side of the camera to help you with your framing and with the composition of the photo. The second one here is the actual rangefinder, and if you can look into that very closely, I don't know if you can or not, when you look through this you will see the image is more than likely split in two, with one half being offset from the other, from top to bottom. And by using the rangefinder, this dial here, which has the gear, as you move that rangefinder back and forth, the two halves of the image move together until they line up. When the image looks like it's completely whole and not split in half, then you know that you have your focus correct. And like I said before, that's all automatic. As the rangefinder moves, the gear makes sure that it also is moving the lens so that you don't have to do two separate settings. So that's what these two are for. You would use the rangefinder first to make sure that you had your focus correct. Then you would use the other one to make sure you had the composition of your photograph correct. And then you would press the shutter button. So now we're going to talk about how to load the film. So we're going to take off this leather case. That is done right here through this device. This has in the center the threaded hole for mounting to a tripod. But if you use the outer side and just rotate it off, it is basically a screw. This is fairly tight fit. There we go. And you can see that basically the post of that just went into the mount here at the bottom for the tripod. So this is what the camera looks outside of the case. Again, very square. The nickname for this camera was the Brick. And you have a release mechanism here on this side. So you push down firmly here, and the back just pops open. Now if you've loaded a 35mm camera before, it's pretty much exactly the same. The film goes in here, and you have this post, and you pull that down, the cartridge goes in there, and that pushes back up into place and holds the cartridge on that side. You'll then have a tab of film that you pull across, and you have a slot here in this spindle that the film goes into, and you use this to rotate and take up the slack. And the sprockets here line up with the sprocket holes in the film, and that also lines up with this film release trigger here. So you pull your film across, you shut the back door, and you'll need to press down on this in order to close the back. You will then push down this, which when there's film in it will lock, and you will wind it until this pops back up. And basically what that does is make sure that you do not wind this too little. You push this over and wind until this pops back up and you know that you have gone exactly one frame. So that's a nice handy feature to make sure that you don't get double exposures or something like that. So then when you're ready, you push this up and take a picture. So that covers the basics of the camera. We have a few accessories to go over as well. We have, for this camera, a flash bulb attachment. Now this is a very basic reflector here, and the bulb goes in the middle. You have down on this end a compartment to store batteries. It takes 2 C batteries. You have the little spring, traditional place for batteries. Okay. And then you have here, you have 2 plugs. And those go into the side of the camera here. Like that. Now the case also has a hole so that you can use the flash attachment even when you have the case on. So let's slip this back on. And there you have it. So now the flash will go off when you take a picture. Now in addition to this, we also have several flash bulbs to use. So I'll show you how to install those. It's actually fairly simple. Here you have on the bottom of this light bulb 2 little knobs on either side. I don't know if you can see those. They're little knobs on either side, and they correspond with the 2 slots that are here in this housing. And all you do is make sure you have those lined up and give it a gentle push in, and it's ready to go. This is a one-use bulb. When it flashes, this will turn dark and it will obviously be used. And to take another picture, you will need to replace this bulb. You have this button here on the back. You push it and it releases the bulb. Push it in, it clicks, hit the button, and it pops out. It actually has a spring back here so that it actually gets rid of it with some force, like that. So you want to be careful that you have your hand nearby when you push that button, or the bulb will just go flying. So that is the Argus C3 camera. We have, in addition, the original manual that came with the camera, and it has all of the instructions on how to use it. So you can go through and read all about the different features in detail. Here is how to load the film. And here's more about how to load the film. Here's how to hold the camera in the horizontal or the vertical position. Here are other settings for the camera. Setting the shutter, what do they call this? They call it the shutter cocking lever. So, setting the shutter cocking lever so that you can take a picture. And several other shutter settings. And here they talk about the different f-stops on the camera. And here they talk about using the rangefinder. You'll see that in this picture here, the image is split, and then when it is properly done, the image comes together as a whole. It also talks about different lenses that you can buy. The lens of this camera is removable, and you can interchange it with other ones. Here we have a projector that can show the slides that you take. So a little bit of advertising in the back. And then here are the specifications of the camera itself. So there you have it. In addition to that, we also have a box of the original bulbs that came with it. The cardboard packaging is a little bit on the worn side, so I'm not going to take them out or anything. But you have 4 bulbs in here to get you started with using your camera. Okay? Did you have any questions? Okay. Okay, how does the lens come off? Sure, absolutely. I can show you that. Let me take this off here. In order to remove the lens, since it is integrated here with this gear, the first thing you need to do is to set this all the way to 3, so that this reads 3. And basically what that does is set the teeth of the lens correctly when you go to put it back on. This gear is held in place by this screw that nearly covers the entire gear. So you need to take off the screw, like that, and then this gear just rests right on this spindle, and you take that off. You then just rotate and unscrew the lens. It's pretty finely threaded, so it takes a few turns. And there you go. Now you have to be careful, because this is the shutter right here. And you have to make sure that you do not let anything damage that shutter mechanism. It is very durable. This camera is pretty much still usable. But you do have to be careful with the shutter. So then, you just make sure you have all the threads lined up. Screw the lens back in. And there you go. Now, you want to make sure you have your gears back to where they were, so that this will line up again correctly, which means all the gears need to be going around this direction. If you screw it all the way down, so all the gears are on the top, it's not going to work correctly. So line it up so that the teeth of this gear engage with the very first teeth here, like that, making sure that it is still pointed to 3. And then you just screw this back on very carefully. There we go. and then your lens is ready to go. Okay? Good. Yeah, once you do it a few times, it's not too hard, so it's just a little different than what you may be used to. So, good. Do you think you want to get this camera? Excellent. It's a great choice. It's a good, solid camera, and it's a little bit of nostalgia as well. All right. Well, thanks for coming, and I'll get this all packaged up for you. All right. Thanks. Bye.